Imposter syndrome is defined as the persistent inability to believe that one's success is deserved or has been legitimately achieved as a result of one's own efforts or skills. Cue the music.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, everyone, and welcome to a fake episode of the Good Leader Podcast, the podcast designed to increase the world's leadership capacity. You know, we realize that the world needs better leaders, and you are one of them. So thank you for joining us. If you ever felt imposter syndrome, Jess, you heard the definition right there from Anj. Have you felt imposter syndrome? That's what we're talking about today.
Since the day I came out of the womb.
I knew you were going to say that.
You know what? Wow. Okay, this is fascinating. I don't know if I felt it. All right, Rochelle, have you ever felt imposter syndrome before?
Oh, I fake it till I make it all the time. Yeah.
Oh man, you know what? I'm already triggered. I'm triggered by both of you. I am. This is going to be the most triggering episode for Jared Anthony Murray.
I can't wait for you to learn
things are
more
going to come
about.
out.
I'm already triggered.
Stop.
Fake it till you make it. That's a trigger phrase for me.
Why? It's so.
I hate
it works
I hate that
so.
phrase.
It works so well.
It's you know what? No, it
You
doesn't.
don't feel like you fake it till you make it?
No way.
Ever?
No way.
You just fake it and you never make it?
Depends on if I made it or not. But I mean, that's up to you. No, I hate fake it till you make it. Because I'm authentic in every space I enter. There is no time that I'm not being authentic and genuine to who I am.
That's not even what that means.
I mean, no, hold on. That sounds very pious. That was a very pious statement. I do my best to not do that. So it's not like you know what I'm saying? So the best version of me is pretty genuine, pretty authentic. I'm not saying that I have never.
Okay, so you're saying you don't put on something else that's not yourself.
No. So
okay,
am I not?
That's
am
a
I not?
definition.
Am I not good at things yet? Absolutely, I'm not good at things yet. So I'm going to try it. I'm going to do well. To me, fake it till you make it. You have to choose. Are you in fake it till you make it camp? Or are you in growth mindset camp? Which one are you?
Jess, you made it
I don't think you can have both.
No, I know, but that's just not how I view it. I just view it completely differently.
Wait, in fairness here, I said I'm triggered. I didn't say this
You're
is the way it is.
clearly triggered.
He's clearly triggered.
But I'm not saying my way or the highway. I'm not saying I've got this down. I'm saying I'm triggered. Here's my truth. I'm speaking how I feel.
Speak your truth, queen.
Thank you. But seriously, I think you have to pick fake it till you make it or growth mindset. I don't know if you can.
Oh, to me, both are the same.
Oh God,
I know. I'm just shooting out the door here.
Saying, like,
oh my gosh, that's the triggering part. No,
It's when I fake it till I learn what I don't know, and then I do better.
Well, I think it's more of a confidence. I think it's a confidence thing.
Okay, let me ask you this then. If you are in fake it till you make it mode, and I'm not even saying you, let's use the royal you, the royal we, okay? Anyone everybody listening out there.
The leader out there.
The leader out there. Thank you. I like that
you.
phrase. The leader in you. Great book. Okay, so if you are in fake it till you make it mode, okay? Wherever that is. Like, oh, I've got to, do a speech that I'm uncomfortable with. I'm starting a business and I've never done it. I've faked a managerial role and I don't know what I'm really doing. Are these fair examples?
Pointed at me. Yeah.
Fake it till you make it?
Did you see that?
Feels personal.
That was a very
For you,
It is obvious. You've never done this before.
It was
That
very
is-
subtle.
That was
manager role.
That
You
is your
didn't know
subconscious. That is your subconscious. That is not me.
I'm
That was
rolling.
imposter.
I thought it was interesting.
I'm rolling, please.
No, but are those fair examples?
Okay.
I'm trying to think of real world examples of like,
Yes.
well, yeah, just fake it till you make it, kid. Okay. Then if I'm faking it till I make it, can I admit, hey, I don't know what I'm doing?
Oh, yeah.
That's not fake. Okay, what? Then that's not fake it till you make it.
I think we have a different definition.
I think we have to. What does fake it mean? Fake it to me means act like you know what you're doing.
Okay.
Fake it. What are you faking then?
Confidence.
Okay.
What are you faking?
That makes a lot of sense. I think I can answer that for you.
Please do.
Because I think of fake it till you make it depending on the audience I'm in front of.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
No, keep going. I'm not.
Okay,
No, I'm
I
still
will use
unclear.
real life examples.
Please.
Okay. Behind closed doors
Sure.
with you,
Yeah.
I might say, wow, I really don't know. Don't even feel totally qualified
Okay.
for that role. I think we've
Yeah.
had this conversation.
We
But
have.
I will figure that out.
Okay, yeah.
But then I
Now,
don't.
can I pause? That's a growth mindset attitude to me. Like that is I like that. What you just did, I like. Hey, I've never done this. I don't know. I'm going to try. I'm going to get out there and I'm going to go for it.
But then I go in front of the team and I look more confident for sure than I am for sure. Like I'm 100% sold on my decision. Might not be. Might be more like 80%. That is what I would call faking it to make it. But really, I think what that is defining is imposter syndrome.
Well, I love that we're talking about this today because if that's what we're calling imposter syndrome,
That
like I
is
said,
what
I'm
I'm
triggered all the
calling-
way around, and all of it's a bunch
That's
of
what
BS.
I would call imposter syndrome.
Okay. Okay, man, the world needs this. Okay, the world needs this.
This might be our best one.
I think you are just automatically assuming that fake it till you make it has a negative connotation.
It does to me.
Oh, it definitely
doesn't.
It 100%.
Doesn't to me. It's more of a like.
Okay.
It's a shield, and it's like it's a shield of like whether I want to do this or not. It feeds into growth mindset for me. Whether I want to do this or not,
I have to.
I have to do it first and foremost to ever do it again. And if I want to do it right, like if I want to start somewhere, I have to do it right now.
Okay, can I ask a question? This is kind of a personal question, and it may be condescending or attacking, and I don't intend it to be.
I don't like either.
Hey,
I love the preface.
But it might be, and I don't mean for it to be.
That was an asterisk that I did.
But I don't know how to ask. So is fake it till you make it almost, or could be, a defense mechanism or a crutch for a fear of failure? Like, in other words, like at the heart of this is a fear of failure, but I'm going to fake it till I make it. It's almost like you use the word shield, and that's what made me think about it. So I was like, but if you're in fake it till you make it mindset, it kind of makes a failure like, oh, that's a little softer then.
I mean, I would say most people like deal with the fear of failure. I think that's a very common thing.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And so fake it till you make it is a way or to deal with, that's why I use the word mechanism, to deal with fear of failure potentially.
Yes.
I don't know. I mean,
maybe.
Have you heard that phrase? It's like the cutesy Instagram things where it's like, do it afraid.
Yeah, do it scared.
I feel the same. Do it scared. Something like that.
Do it
I feel the exact same when I leave something. I was like, well, faked it till I made it. But hey.
And you made it out.
See, and those things are not the same. That is not the same statement to me whatsoever. If you said, Jared, do it afraid, or Jared, fake it till you make it. Version 1, absolutely. Let's do it.
Well, I'd probably more subscribe to version 1.
No way. Fake it till you make it.
It's interesting because you have
You've never had to, though. You're a white male in a business world.
Yeah.
Sorry, I really cut you off, Rochelle.
That's not true.
I was going to lead into that, right?
No,
like,
that
you
is
have a
not true.
high priority for being authentic.
So any success a white male has is just because they're a white male? That's incredibly condescending.
No. I wouldn't say that. No, I would not say that.
Say what you said.
Because I know white males who are not successful.
I do too.
But I am saying if I walk into a room of males, even males on our team, I cannot show up as my authentic self. I cannot. It is not allowed.
That is accurate.
Okay. If you have the privilege of walking in as your authentic self.
I'm contemplating this.
I know, I see it. You have the privilege of walking in as the authentic version of you and being respected, being accepted, and being heard. I do not.
What is an authentic version of you that you are not allowed to show in that setting? I need examples to better understand. I am seeking to understand here.
I'm lighthearted.
I am genuinely
maybe
seeking
a little bit emotional. Maybe
everything
like
she just said.
Okay.
Some heart to the situation. Like it's just. I think that you could do those same things, and because you're a man, people would respect you for it. But because she is a woman,
I feel that
they would not take her seriously.
I can hear that.
Or
I can hear that, by the way.
Or my more authentic self might be I'm not those things. I just live with like an RBF face.
Yeah, and then that's just what you are.
And so because I don't have all of those other pieces, I am therefore seen as a bleep. Do we swear?
Yeah. No swear. We're a G, but I get what you're saying.
Kids,
I get it. I get what you're saying.
So it goes both ways, but also the other is true as well. And so you're just stuck somewhere in the middle, and that automatically creates imposter syndrome. I don't care if you're the most confident woman in the world. I think that automatically creates imposter syndrome.
Period, girl.
Okay.
But I can see from your vantage point how that's different. I just think we're born into a world where you're told way more often that you can't versus that you can.
Now we're diatribing off of imposter syndrome for a second, but I'm curious of this because one thing that irritates me is I don't like the word authentic being hijacked for an allowance for all sorts of behaviors. You see what I'm saying? Where it's like,
well, there are me being authentic.
Yes,
so
this
you have
is
to
me.
let me.
Yeah, it's like, wait, hold on. There are behavioral settings. You know what I'm saying? If I'm at a funeral, there's decorum I want to follow. If I'm at a wedding, there's decorum I want to follow.
It's not an excuse for being like, well, you can't be terrible to people.
So I don't. So when I use the word authentic, that's why I asked the question. Okay, so your authentic self. So I'm curious of what you're not allowed to be. Now I will say, as the only male on this podcast today, I appreciate the statement in that, okay, especially what you said, Jess, if I show up as vulnerable and emotional and crying, that can be applauded.
Yeah, they'd be like, oh my gosh.
Right, which I have and do frequently.
And people respect you for it.
But that is my authentic self. That is me being like, well, hey, I feel like crying right now and I'm going to cry. Other days I don't feel like crying and I don't cry. I think that's a separate topic from this, but it's an interesting topic. It's an interesting leadership topic, especially both male and female in leadership, thinking like, okay, what does it mean to show up as your authentic self? Because I hate authenticity being like transparent. Like, well, okay, you want me? What does transparent mean? Like complete? I tell you everything unfiltered.
No,
that's not healthy.
I was just in a great workshop about this.
Okay,
actually, and she literally said, "Now, granted, this is a woman, so I'm curious her perspective, but she did feel passionate about this, and I agreed with her. But she was saying." Work is not where you get to show up as your authentic self. Yeah. That is not actually where you should be. So she was giving her own personal example of like in the last year, her mom got diagnosed with cancer, her cat died. She had all these bad things happen. If she had shown up to work as her authentic self, she would have been a basket case. Right. So so she was very adamantly saying, you don't necessarily get to do that. Mm-hmm. But I would have to go back to my notes to say what her converse of it was. Cause she did have a good,
that's interesting.
But this is still how you show up. I think it was like in more of an identity piece. I want to say she tied it more like that way. Like the core values of who I am can be consistent in and out of work.
I agree with that.
I may not show my authentic feelings necessarily. But to me, so this is a different episode, you're right.
It is.
To me, I do think the imposter syndrome very much ties into where I'm going with the female piece.
Okay.
Because if you had asked me 2 years ago, I was not self-aware enough to know. If you had asked me if I had imposter syndrome, I would have been like you. I've been like, no, absolutely not. I'm very confident, self-assurance very high for both of us on Strength Finders. Like, and I really am. Yeah. It was not until I did more work to really realize, oh, I do actually have to, I don't get to just show up in those spaces and feel accepted, which is the definition of imposter syndrome.
I don't think any good leader does. Good Leader Podcast, I don't think good leaders do. In fact, once again, this is a side note. But I'm starting to get a little more passionate about some things that are becoming more and more unpopular. Okay, good leadership like this. Good leadership is sometimes not self-care. Now, here's what I mean by that. Meaning what you're saying, like, well, self-care today for me is going home and being a basket case. Now, do I need that some days? Yes, absolutely. And today, Jared, you should give yourself that. Take the day off. Take a sabbatical. So I don't want to be counter everything we've said there. But some days, good leadership is like, I'm sucking it up, Buttercup, and I'm going to show up for someone else.
I'm putting someone else above my own
That's
needs.
servant leadership. Yeah. Why? Well, because I'm the leader. I'm the leader. And a good leader today goes, you know what? I will get out of bed even though I have COVID, and I will send you the slides. Okay? I don't feel like it. I don't want to do it, but I'm a good leader.
Right.
I
wouldn't have done it.
Well, I'm a better leader than you. So
maybe, but I wouldn't have.
Well, you know what? I'm the man. All right. No, I'm just kidding. Right. The imposter syndrome. So back to this, the imposter syndrome.
I have an interesting study, actually.
Well, let's hear, because I want to dive into, let's bring it back and find some of the research we found in imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
But I do think we're scratching the surface of some really interesting conversations, which we've talked about before, but the difference in a male versus a female in leadership, the difference in a white male in leadership, all of those things. I don't take any of that lightly.
Yeah.
But I also think, and one of my hot takes today is my opinion on this that we haven't even gotten to yet. So go ahead, Rochelle. Fake it till you make it. Act like you know what you're talking about over there. Tell me what you got.
I'm on it. I can Google things so fast. So it's interesting that you kind of said that sounds like a front for fear of failure.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And studies have shown that females struggle more with a fear of failure. So in a study in 2002 that they found that there is a reported higher fear of failure among female students versus male students. And this is across multiple countries as well, across like 59 countries.
Oh, wow.
Which is really fascinating that this is not just
that's
maybe
really
one
cross-cultural.
place, but it's cross-cultural and how we discuss things. And so they're saying like maybe some of the reasons are that men are encouraged to take risk, to try things, to go for it, and they're rewarded for those things.
Yeah.
Versus women are kind of being set up for, man, if you fail, because oftentimes you're the caregiver, that means someone or something dies. And so because you're the caregiver in a lot of the situations, there's not a lot of space or room for failure. And so therefore it's not as encouraged versus men are encouraged to take risks. So this was like in a study in students. And so they were really focusing on like your grades and like how much risk are you taking? How much are you learning new things or how much are you trying to get the grade? But they were finding that it was men were like, well, I'll try things with the risk of a lower grade, and I'm not afraid of failing that class, versus women were like, I have to make it. I have to. If I don't, I'm I'm toast, which is interesting. So I think it's that narrative that we write in our heads of like, there's a cost to failure, therefore I can't, therefore I do need to. I mean, Jess, you were saying like I have a shield of like, this is my confidence. I literally think of it as like a hat that I put on where I'm like, okay, I'm putting on this hat and I'm going to think like this. And like, okay, there's some pieces of me that are real nervous or scared or whatever, but I have that hat on, and I'm going to put that hat on and I can make these decisions and I can try and I'm going to see, because guess what? There are people counting on me. There's something happening. I have to go for it,
Yeah. That reminds me of, have you heard Brene Brown talk about permission slips?
Oh, no.
Like I give a permit. I do it sometimes in workshop.
I'm reading a book. Where she does I know, right? have I mentioned I'm doing 75 hard?
You have not.
Really?
Are we still in that?
Yeah.
We're there. We're like 157 hard at this point.
And there's a chapter on permission slips, but the book is about creativity.
Wait, which one are you reading?
Was it a Brene Brown book?
No, it's by the woman who, Elizabeth Gilbert. She wrote Eat, Pray, Love.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I forgot what it's called.
I know.
But I'm reading.
Yeah.
I've been posting it. I don't know if you've seen, but it's
Untamed? The Untamed Lady?
No, that's Glennon Doyle. Have you read it?
Glennon's also great.
In fact,
I bet
I have.
Glennon Doyle's probably given herself
Loyal
a lot
listeners.
of permission slips. I'm going to guess.
But
Loyal listeners know I've listened to it.
But I actually view it that same way as what you guys are saying, where it is like that permission, like I do not feel qualified to be here at all, but I'm giving myself the permission to walk into a room like I am. I'm walking into the room like they have accepted me, even though I have proof they haven't. So it's like a permission slip to me in that sense.
Well, and all of those things, I do those things too. It's a personal, I don't like the word fake it. I don't like fake it till you make it.
I think it is.
It is.
Personal trigger for you.
And I will share, that's how I started. I said, that is a trigger for me.
Absolutely.
But I do the same thing. So whether it's a permission slip, whether it's fake it till you make it, for me, I'm just a classic, what's the worst that could happen? That's me. I just go to what's the worst that could happen?
Like everything.
And that's where
Someone
that
could
works
die.
better for some
well,
people.
and I will say that does work better. But for me, and this goes to, I am a person of faith. I am a person of family. I'm fortunate. I will say a lot of my risk or lack of risk aversion is because I have a very big safety net. I mean, the worst case scenario for me, like if the whole world falls apart, I'm gonna call my mom and my daddy. And I'm very thankful for that. I am very aware of that. You know what I'm saying? That's a huge safety. Like literally, Jared, the absolute worst thing in the world that could happen is I have to turn to my family and say, I need your help. I need help.
Some of us,
and not everybody has that.
don't have
Right.
that.
I get it. Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm fair about that. But that's where, okay, so my mechanism doesn't have to be fake it till you make it. That's a mechanism that doesn't make sense for me.
Right.
I was like, okay, well, I'm not faking it till I make it. I know, man, I'm probably going to suck here today, but man, what's the worst that could happen?
At least you tried.
You fail. And also, I think that's where some of exactly what you're saying, because when you were talking, Rochelle, I was thinking of Sheryl Sandberg's book, Lean In. And I can't remember the exact phraseology, but she has a whole maybe it's an entire chapter on like just the way that women have to interview and think about things. It's about risk taking essentially, and the encouragement of like, well, just go ask. Like me, I would say, just go ask. What can I say? No. Like me, what's the worst that could happen? She'd say no, and she's like, no, that's not the worst that could happen for this female. Oh, okay. Now, once again, I think I'm pretty at least self-aware and fair to say I don't know what that's like. So I don't know what that's like. But as we're talking about imposter syndrome, I want to throw out some facts as we throw out all of our opinions. The fact is that it is not a diagnosable mental illness. Like imposter syndrome is not a diagnosable thing, which I think is maybe a misconception. You know, that it's like, oh yeah, you can't actually be diagnosed with imposter syndrome. I got this research from Psychology Today. My definition that I found was a behavioral health phenomenon described as self-doubt of intellect, skills, or accomplishment, specifically among high-achieving individuals.
Yeah.
So my simplistic definition, if you're like, I've heard some imposter syndrome, Anj, I want you to give us your definition that you found in just a moment. But the simplistic way to think about it is like, okay, the internal dialogue tells you you can't do this, or you're not worthy of this, or you are going to fail at this, even when the external evidence is pointing to the otherwise.
Right.
Like,
And everyone knows it.
And everyone knows it. The external evidence is no, you are a good leader, a high achiever, you have this, you've earned it. It's like, but. So that's when we're talking about imposter syndrome, those are those things. So give us that actual definition that you led the show with so that we can get that. And then I want to jump into my hot take thought before we go to break.
Also, I want to put the plug in. The book I'm reading is called Big Magic.
Big magic.
Oh.
It's so good. Creative living beyond fear.
Yes.
Wow, that's exactly what we're talking about today.
It's just
Big magic. And who's the author? Is that
Elizabeth Gilbert.
Okay, excellent.
She's incredible.
Yeah, I love her.
Yeah.
I do have that long definition that I started with. I also have a little bit of a shorter one. Do you want me to go back to
go for the short one?
Okay, so I did like this one. It was repeat because it's simple. Repeated feelings or thoughts that are incompetent or not good enough, despite evidence to the contrary.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Exactly.
Kind of what you just said.
Okay. So here's my hot take, and then we're gonna go to break, and then we'll come back, play a fun little game. And I found 5 different types of imposter syndrome after the break, which I thought was fascinating.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's where we're gonna end this episode. But before we do that, here's my hot take. If you're out there and you're living in imposter syndrome, okay, here's my advice: stop using the phrase imposter syndrome.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
That's my
like
hot
putting
take.
a label on it?
Well, use some different labels. So here's and once again, this is not a medical diagnosis. So it is literally impossible for you to have imposter syndrome, first of all, from a factual medical standpoint. You cannot have it. I cannot have it. It's like saying, oh, is your arm broken? Well, we know if your arm's broken or not. You can take an x-ray and we can say, yes, you have a broken arm.
It's a mindset.
It's a mindset.
Yeah.
So I think everyone is on the imposter syndrome scale. All of us. Mm-hmm. Everyone's on that scale.
Sure.
And I think imposter syndrome was being used the way the word depression was used 25 years ago.
Very buzzwordy.
Very buzzwordy. 25 years ago, it's like, oh, I think I'm depressed. Wait a minute. You're sad. Or you're having a bad day.
Yeah.
Or you're tired.
Yeah.
You are not depressed.
Right.
We have learned depression is an actual clinical diagnosis that has symptoms and consequences. And you know what I'm saying? Like, so don't say you're depressed. That's number one, it's overestimating your condition and undermining the actual idea of depression.
Right.
So, and I remember we've moved away from that, I think, culturally. But 25 years ago, people said it all the time. And y'all are all probably too young to even be in that sphere. But 25 years ago, people said, oh, I'm just depressed. I'm just depressed. I'm depressed today. I'm depressed. I mean, people said it a lot. I mean, I'm talking like when I was in high school, people was like, hey, are you okay? I'm just depressed.
Yeah.
I'm just depressed. Very buzzwordy. Cool. Now,
people are taking it a lot more seriously, I think.
Absolutely, which is great.
Yeah.
I applaud that. And mental health and awareness, that's actually great. So until we do the same thing with imposter syndrome, if and when we do, we may not. But for today, I would actually use more words because the power of language is immense. So if you keep telling yourself, I'm dealing with imposter syndrome, I'm dealing with imposter syndrome, I'm dealing with imposter syndrome, then you're probably negatively reinforcing those ideas. Instead, use words, and that's what I'm saying, it's a spectrum. Let's say if I'm on one end of the spectrum, because I'm actually not as confident as I come off, that's part of my defense mechanism.
You came in this episode real hot. That's all I'm saying.
Well, if you're saying somebody's got to be the best, all right, I'll take it. I'll take that mantle. But I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid to be the best.
SMH.
Okay? Some people are. I'm not afraid to be the best.
I do really not like the word imposter syndrome. I've never subscribed to it.
Which I think is, and I don't hate it. That's not a trigger for me. Somebody saying imposter, that's not the trigger. Fake it till you make it. I don't that crap. Jeez Louise. God. I hate it. These people.
Women.
Exactly. Finally, someone who understands.
I get you.
Thank you, Mr. Treat.
Nobody gets you like I do.
Thank you, Mr. Treat.
Yeah, no problem.
Oh, man. I wish we had a Mr. Treat alter ego that you could bring into the show sometimes. That'd be nice.
Well, I'm leaving. So.
I know. I don't want to. Wow.
Wow. Way to just announce
it.
We can talk more about it later.
We'll talk later.
I'll cry or something.
But if we think of it as a scale then, and allow yourself, and I actually do think this is helpful, then instead of it being this all or nothing, well, I either have imposter syndrome or I don't.
Sure.
Well, no, it's either I am extremely confident in this ability, in this capacity, in this space, all the way to imposter syndrome on the other end of the spectrum. And along the way, there are things like words like doubt, worry, fear, anxiety, frustration. Yeah. There are a lot of words that you could use to describe your current state, your current mental state, that I think would give you more power over the situation than instead of just saying like, how are you doing today? I'm just dealing with imposter syndrome versus how are you doing today? I've got a lot of doubts about this meeting. Oh, well, that's a separate thing. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like we did this activity the other day in our staff meeting, which was phenomenal, and we're going to do more with it. But there's a great quote. I'll have to look it up and give credit where credit's due. But there's a great quote that says, draw a monster. And we did this in staff meeting. Draw a monster. And we all drew monsters. And then we did some fun stuff with it where we shared our monsters, talked about it. But the quote is, draw a monster. What makes it a monster? And I'm trying to find who said it because that is just a super powerful idea to me. And that's a little bit of what I'm saying here. So Janice Lee, draw a monster. Why is it a monster? And it's the same thing. If you create this monster out of imposter syndrome, and it's this all or nothing, it becomes this boogeyman where it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Instead, draw the monster. What makes it a monster? Well, I'm worried about how people will perceive me after this meeting. Okay. That's easier to deal with. Does it go away? No, it doesn't go away. It doesn't go away. And you're still dealing with that. But it's easier to deal with other than, well, I'm sick. I'm really sick. Okay, what have you got? I don't know. I'm just really sick. Well, let's diagnose it a little bit more. And you say, well, I've got a sore foot. Oh, okay. Well, what's wrong with your foot? Oh, there's a rash on the bottom of it. Well, okay, that's disgusting. And that's what? But you know what? There's something we can do about that now. So diagnose more properly. Anj, what are you doing? Laughing at me over there?
No, I think it's funny you're saying that because I think the reason people don't want to diagnose it is because then they'd have to deal with it. So you're saying, which is very appropriate to your personality. You're like, just tell me what the problem is, and I want to fix it. A lot of people, you keep saying that's easier. For a lot of people, that is harder. It is easier for me, not necessarily me, but it is easier for a lot of people to say, oh, I just struggle with imposter syndrome versus, oh, I just really struggle with the idea that I need everybody to like me in the room.
Oh, I see.
That is way harder to accept than just the universal.
That is such a good point.
That's fair. And so let me, and even in my explanation, I don't want to use the word easy, but I think it's better.
Oh, it's for sure.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure.
And I don't even want to say that's easier for me because I don't think that would be easier for me. I think sometimes it is easier for me just to say I'm really frustrated today.
Well, and I think it could show signs of like your willingness to change that.
Yeah, to change and to grow and lean into
simple.
it. And I get it. You're totally right, Anj, and that's really fitting to say. Well, it's easier to say. I would dare say that's pretty universal though. Like even for someone like me who is
that's what I mean.
Pretty high achiever, it's still easier for me to just go out. Imposter syndrome. Well, fake it till you make it. Well, I don't know. Don't throw your hands up. My point is, well, instead of just saying don't throw your hands up, I want us to give a few more tactics.
Yeah.
And one of those tactics to me is diagnose it, use more specific language, identify your feelings, which is hard. You're right. That is harder work. Might bring up some other things. But lo and behold, maybe those other things would actually get to the root. Hopefully will. Why you actually feel the imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Oh, it's because, wow, lo and behold, I'm still trying to please my mom, from when I was 5 years old.
Absolutely.
Wow. Holy cow. Now that's deep waters, but I did read a lot of psychology today in preparation for the episode. So after this, I have a therapy session. But before that, we're going to take a break and come back with a fun game.
I'm dying. If you didn't know, the Good Leader podcast is powered by Paradigm Shift. Paradigm Shift is on a mission to unlock individuals' leadership potential. If you are interested in leadership development resources such as keynotes, cohorts, or workshops, visit www.ps.company for more information.
Okay, that's right. Check out ps.company. Hire us so that we can keep doing this for free. Now, imposter syndrome, I'm going to give you 5 types according to my research. One interesting nugget you were talking about, I don't know if we mentioned this, but imposter syndrome, and these are very broad studies, but the approximation is 70% of women feel imposter syndrome at some point in time, something like that. Seems pretty high.
That is high.
Makes sense.
I believe it, though. You know how women are. All right.
He says to 3 women.
Disclaimer, everybody.
The only reason I can laugh is because I know you don't actually believe it. For the people who don't know you.
I still had a moment of like,
he has a whole leadership team of women, so I feel like not everyone knows that, though. You're going to become clickbait soon, which you'd actually probably love.
When you don't fake it till you make it, I can stand on a joke. Go ahead, Jess. What's your disclaimer?
He doesn't hate women.
I'm not coming off as a women hater. Am I?
Hey,
I'm not being that strong.
If you clipped you, if someone clipped you.
Really strong.
No. I digress.
Okay.
But he isn't being intentionally condescending. Just so everybody's
That's a better,
aware.
No, actually, I am very intentionally being condescending.
To women, towards women?
Yeah, as a joke way. I'm saying I'm really overtly doing this.
You're trying to do it. Yeah, I know.
Geez, stop being such a girl.
Condescending women isn't a joke.
I've been condescended by women many times. Okay?
Well, you probably deserved it. So
okay. All right. She had imposter syndrome. She was trying to fake it till she make it. And I was like, you don't have to do that, lady. You don't do that.
This is devolving quickly.
Not here. You don't have to do that here. Not with me.
I'm loving it.
According to Dr. Valerie Young, there are 5 imposter types. Okay.
Oh.
So
I'm ready.
The fun little game is you pick where you identify. Okay.
Ooh.
You're like, ooh, that's.
Oh, so this is
therapy.
This was
actually
this is
therapy.
women. This is
I was
women.
like, I thought this was going to be a fun game.
Play that commercial music again, would you, Jess? We'll do one more commercial break. Play that commercial music for me. Need therapy but can't afford it? Check out the Good Leader podcast. We're here as amateur psychologists to help you diagnose anything that may or may not exist. Will we be actually helpful? Who knows? But at least we're free.
Disclaimer, we are not actual psychologists.
That was a good commercial. Well done, Jess.
That was
a great disclaimer at the end, too.
Good job.
We're not. Okay, so self-diagnose here. Number 1 is the perfectionist. This type of imposter syndrome involves believing that unless you are absolutely perfect, you could have done better. You feel like an imposter because your perfectionist traits make you believe that you're not as good as others think you are. That's the perfectionist. So remember, these are all imposter syndrome.
Why are you looking at me?
Diagnose each other?
You can diagnose
Why
yourself.
are you looking at me?
But
Actually,
imposter
I think we
syndrome,
should
for the
diagnose
listeners
each
at
other. That'd be
home,
more helpful.
imposter syndrome is the overview. It's the umbrella. And these are specific types.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
So that's the perfectionist. Number 1, be sure you take notes because, you know.
Well, I don't need
there are
to.
5 of these.
I already have
Well, we
mine.
got 4 other types
So-
that you might be.
Well, I'm sure I'm all 5.
The expert. The expert feels like an imposter because they don't know everything there is to know about a particular subject or topic, or they haven't mastered every step in the process. Because there is more for them to learn, they don't feel as if they reached the rank of expert. So, number 1, perfectionist. Number 2, expert. Number 3, the natural genius.
Oh.
In this imposter syndrome type, you may feel like a fraud simply because you don't believe that you are naturally intelligent or competent. If you don't get something right the first time around, or it takes you longer to master a skill, you feel like an imposter, the natural genius. Okay. Number 4, the soloist. This is fascinating, by the way. This is good. This is really a good amateur psychology hour.
This is really dissecting it.
It is. I like this. I like this work. Thank you, Dr. Valerie Young. She's doing great. I mean, she could do better, but all right. Number 4, the soloist.
Everyone, please, another disclaimer. We love women out here. Wait.
I love women.
You know when,
I love women.
You know when
I've been
women-
loving women my whole life. I love women.
Please.
All right.
Okay.
Hey, for the 1% in the audience that gets that reference, they loved it just then. All right, the soloist. It's also possible to feel like an imposter if you have had to ask for help to reach a certain level or status, since you couldn't get there on your own. You question your competence or ability. These are good, right? That's good.
Yeah, I'm feeling-
yeah. Number 5 is the super person. This type of imposter syndrome involves, okay, you can't go 5 out of 5. All right, I'm going to make you
No,
at least pick one that's a little above the other.
Can I
okay?
pick
And even if you don't believe
3?
it, fake it till you make it. Just give me an answer. All right, number 5.
There you go.
The super person. This type of imposter syndrome involves believing that you must be the hardest worker or reach the highest levels of achievement possible. And if you don't, you are a fraud. This is fascinating. This is tough. And I agree. I think you can be multiples, have bits and pieces of each. I do agree with that.
I got a lot of
because I'm feeling a little. I'm feeling a little.
I got a lot of things going on.
Okay. All right. Who wants to go first here? Who wants to go first? Because I have a new revelation for me.
I can't wait for you to tell us
I'll
which
go right
one
now.
you are.
I will.
Yeah.
You want me to go first?
Yeah.
That'd be good.
I actually think this reinforces my spectrum theory of saying, like, instead of saying imposter syndrome, it's like I have a little of that, and that can creep in. That I tend to be. For me, oh man. In my professional life, the expert comes out a lot for me.
Absolutely.
Because I'm hired by very high level achievers to come in
to know what you're talking
and
about.
know what I'm talking about and lead them in new ways, better ways. There are many times I'm like, okay, like I have a really good friend who is in a similar space, who's a professional speaker. And as I was building Paradigm Shift and starting this, I'm talking 10 years ago, and laying out the blueprint and what we're doing and where we're going, he specifically asked me, he's like, why would you want to work with people more than once? I'm like, well, what do you mean? He's like, man, because you're awesome at speaking. You come in, you do your keynote, they love you, you wow them, and then you move on. He's like, if you keep working with people, they're going to expect results. They're going to expect you to know what's going on, which honestly is a valid point. And there are a lot of speakers who it's like, man, they are awesome for that hour.
It's a good model.
It's a great model. I don't fault him for it. I'm just the juxtaposition to where I'm like, well, no, I want to see results. I want to help people, and but it is.
We're going the harder.
That's not really creating positive
So I feel-
change now, is it?
Well, it is for that hour. I can create positive change for now. I'm really good for
Sustainable positive change.
an hour. Well, now you're throwing more words. Okay. But I
love
feel,
adjective.
to answer your
Stick to
question,
the
I
mission
feel
statement.
the expert in my professional settings quite a bit. I'm like, okay, I can feel that. And then the super person, for sure. Just as my Enneagram 3 over here. Like, I'm the super person.
Yeah.
So those are mine.
Yep.
And I feel that. But now, at the beginning of this episode, hey, Jared, do you have imposter syndrome? No, I don't. I don't have imposter syndrome. Because I own that I don't have imposter syndrome. Not that I don't deal with any of this stuff, but it's like, well, I don't want to minimize. It's kind of like my depression thing. Well, I don't want to minimize someone who maybe actually dealing with something on a pretty heavy level or much more than I am.
Yeah.
So it's a spectrum.
What is the difference between solo and super person? Because
soloist says because soloist is you didn't do it on your own. So you feel like, or, since you didn't get there on your own, you needed help. And so you question your competence. Super person is almost striving to be the best. So I think a soloist, it doesn't matter where you rank, quote unquote, but you're like, well, I didn't get about, even if you got I got this job because my uncle works here.
Right.
And you know what I'm saying? Or whatever. I got this job because of somebody else. Well, my friend had to give me a recommendation, so it's really my friend that did it, not me.
Okay. Yep.
Whereas a super person, it's more about,
I got to be the best.
I got to be the best.
Yeah.
And if I'm not the best, what am I? An imposter? Ooh, I think I have a syndrome.
You do.
You do.
I do. I really admit. Well, I don't think, but I'm saying on
Keeps
the scale,
you going.
It does keep me going.
I'm rocking with a bit of perfectionist.
Okay. I
And
feel
then probably solo a bit.
that. Okay.
I think sometimes I'm like, well, I can just do this all on my own. And I think that's just comes from the habit of like not being able to have help. So it's like I've learned how to do it on my own for so long. Like even I think it comes from like growing up specifically.
Okay.
So and perfectionist for sure, like if this isn't perfect and I didn't spend blood, sweat, and tears on this, then it's not worth it to me.
Okay. All right. Rochelle,
Wow.
1 through 5, perfectionist,
I
expert,
was not ready.
natural genius, soloist, super person.
I think the super person actually is really perfectionist for sure speaking to me because I have such such a high level of like it has to be amazing. Like kind of what you were saying, all this, like it has to be completely perfect, which is not true, actually.
Well, once again, I like this phrase with the definition. It's unless you were absolutely perfect, you could have done better.
Yeah.
And therefore, the perfectionism kicks in and the imposter syndrome tendencies.
Because I replay things in the sense that I'm like, wow, I thought that was great, but then I think about, I could have said this, didn't say that, did that better. You know,
I do that all the time.
Yeah, so I think I hold myself, and then
funny.
I'm like,
I don't deal with that at all.
In the shower,
I don't
oh my God.
I'm like, man, I
replay
killed that. That was awesome.
conversations.
That was great. And I'm on to the next thing.
you know, the memories like attack you from nowhere, and you're like, oh, the third grade,
Should have done this.
Yeah.
Could have said this. And this is what I would do if.
Yeah, and then it almost like dismantles the like, wow, I was really proud of that.
Definitely.
But then I think about all the things I could have, should have, would have kind of thing. And it almost like takes away that pride of like, wow, I was really proud of that. But now the more I think about it, I'm actually not, you know? And so I think that's that imposter syndrome. That's just like, I could have been a better leader. You know, if I had just said this one thing that now I know, but I wouldn't have known unless I'd gone through it with that circumstance, that person, whatever. So yeah, I think that.
Okay.
It's interesting.
A perfectionist. Anj, you're not a perfectionist. So what are you? Any of those creep or none? Maybe you've mastered this whole thing.
I haven't mastered them, no, but I boring. It's gonna be the same as you.
Okay.
The expert and super. I know. Sorry, I was like, you can skip me. It's gonna be the same.
You know what? I did it better. So let's move on. All right, expert and super person for Anj. No, I see that. Which one do you feel like? Do you feel like there's a difference from, like I said, is there a difference in your personal life and professional life?
I did think it was interesting you went there. I don't feel that much in my personal life.
Okay.
I can't think of a lot of moments where I feel maybe at all. Yeah.
Well, that's
So it'd probably be all professional, I think.
Okay.
In the way I'm viewing it.
okay. Really interesting.
Yeah. Well, I'm interested by your intrigue. So now
Well, my
that
intrigue
feels
is because
like-
you're involved in like
cool.
communities of worship. You're involved in different settings like that. So is it like,
Oh, yeah.
none of it?
No, I don't feel that at all.
Oh, okay. That's where I feel like the super person is what I'm saying.
Like you need to be better.
Yeah. Well, if I'm not the best, like I can't just attend church. That's hard for me.
Oh,
Sure.
wow.
Seriously. And I'm
There's
not
like no-
I'm saying
well-
that's kind of an issue. It's because I was like, well, why? Well,
There's
part of
nothing
it-
to be the best at.
there's always a best.
take that
Well, I know
You
that's
take that up
that's
with the
where
Lord.
we split.
I know. And I mean, and I'm not trying to hyper spiritualize it.
No, I know.
I'm seriously
I'm just
just
kidding.
looking at it like real parts of my life. Why do you
Yeah.
feel that, Jared?
Yeah.
Well, I can admit I probably shouldn't feel that. But it's true. If you ask your pastor who's the best volunteer in this church, they have an answer.
I don't want it to be. I'll hands up say that is not me.
I'm saying
it.
Okay, and then I think that's where
Don't
I'm being,
like it.
Well, but my
Not where
point
I'm
is
best.
the super person, this type of imposter syndrome involves believing that you must be the hardest worker or reach the highest levels of achievement possible.
Yeah.
And if you don't, you are a fraud.
Yeah,
Like
I only feel that at work.
I feel, I have to be the best dad at the soccer field. I have to be the best volunteer at church. I have to be the best, whatever, even like this. Like, wow, I was the best one on the podcast today. I'm not saying I am.
It is your podcast.
I know, but I'm just trying to be I mean, in that one, I feel probably less. But seriously, it's like
I think I'm the best on the podcast today. I just want to say.
Actually, I agree with that.
No, that one podcast where you did the Tinkerbell thing over and over. That was hilarious. That was the one I'd give you.
Yeah,
today,
that was hilarious.
Not your best.
That came out.
You dropped an announcement without even any pomp or circumstance. No, you don't win the day.
Yeah.
I win the day with how hot I came at Rochelle with fake it or till you make it crap.
I am warming the waters.
I'm winning. Speaking of that, where can you follow us? Paradigm Shift Leadership, is that where they follow us everywhere?
Do you know our socials?
LinkedIn. I asked you to try to make you feel important. Check us out all over social media. Tell us who is the best today. Go out there. Fake it till you make it.
Pick Jess.
Be a good leader.
Vote Jess.
Cue the music. We're out of here. We're done.
We're done?
Yes, that's it. We're over.
That was insane.
You're leaving, so sorry.
You just ended the episode like that?
It was a good time because you and I were just going to go at it. You were going to make me say things you don't want to hear and I don't want to say.
We were going for 40 minutes.
I know. That's why I ended it.